Greetings and welcome back to my humble neck of the YouTube woods. Hope you are all doing well, looking after yourselves and each other. Back with another one of these gaming history videos. I've decided to do one of these every time there's a Wii channel milestone. And recently it's come to my attention that the channel has hit 100,000 views, which is pretty crazy. The last video I did was the 300 video 3 months ago, 300 video milestone, and I spoke about the Sega Mega Drive and Nintendo Entertainment System. So we'll stick to that similar vein every time a milestone is reached. I believe I'm not too far off 300 subscribers, so I may be sitting talking awkwardly again sooner rather than later, but I think that'll be the last milestone for a long time. And the console I'm going to talk about today is, I was around 10 or 12, I'd imagine, and I recall my parents giving the money to my older brother and the two of us adventuring into the city centre, into Smith's toy store, the gaming section of Smith's toy store, and picking up this very console. And the console in question is, of course, as you might have gathered, is the PlayStation 1. And the PlayStation 1 really solidified me as a gamer. I remember the excitement of coming back and being eager to test the demos, and even the demo of that Tyrannosaurus Rex, blew my mind. I was very impressed at that alone. This pixelated king lizard strutting his stuff. I believe I had a demo for Wipeout and Destruction Derby as well, but it may have actually been the full game. It's a bit fuzzy. I definitely bought, or it came with the console rather, Tekken, the first Tekken. And I'm just going to briefly touch on some titles that I really remember from way back when. I won't go into any details on them because we'll be here for ages. But certainly lots of Tekkens I played. I also played Twisted Metals, the first and second Twisted Metal, Crash Bandicoots, Crash 1, 2 and 3, Warped, and Crash Team Racing, Worms, the original Worms, Worms Armageddon, Worms World Party. And you may have noticed the theme in all of those. They're all very heavy couch competitive or couch co-op. So I have so many fond memories of playing beat 'em ups, or having epic clashes in Worms or Twisted Metal, or the battle mode of Crash Team Racing with the multi-tap. So there was 4 of us playing at any given time on a tiny split screen. We didn't really race too much on Crash Team Racing, oddly enough. It was mainly the battle modes that we really enjoyed, and again the likes of Twisted Metal, so combat orientated. Wrestling games, SmackDown and Warzone and the like. Myself and my friends would often create wrestlers in our image with our own personas and gimmicks or concepts, and we used to have a lot of fun fighting each other, obviously, and seeing each other on the roster if going for a single campaign. I wasn't a massive professional wrestling fan myself, but a lot of my friends were, and I kind of tagged along on a lot of these things and had fun with it. The original, the first Metal Gear Solid, which I remember my friend George Mahon, who's still a massive Metal Gear Solid fan to this day. I mean, I am too. Don't get me wrong. Just not on the same level as him. And of course, Resident Evils. Resident Evil 1, Resident Evil 2, Resident Evil 3 Nemesis, just massive fond memories for all of those titles as well, you know. Croc, Legend of the Gobos, was one of the earliest platform games that I remember playing. Of course, Tenchu, Stealth Assassins, brilliant game. The stealth kills, the stealth cutscenes, and so on, just were very impressive to me back then. The story as well was quite interesting. Although I will hold my hands up and say I don't know if I've actually beaten the first Tenchu game legitimately, because there was a debug mode where you could have lightning bolts coming out of your chest. So basically you were very, very overpowered and do all sorts of silly shenanigans. And I do remember utilising that against Lord Mayo. However, I definitely did beat the second game, Tenchu 2, Birth of the Stealth Assassins, legitimately. That's one of my favourite games on the PlayStation 1, probably of all time. Certainly my favourite Tenchu game. Not only was the story brilliant, seeing from the three different characters' perspectives as the war with Toda and Goda and the Burning Dawn rebellion kind of unfolded. You could see that through Tatsumaru, Ayame, Rikimaru. But also to create a level option was so much fun. You could create different levels, and myself and my friends would have fun trying to defeat each other's levels and get the best times or scores. And often the levels were, the odds were definitely stacked against you, and you'd have quite a rough time. One of the more obscure games I remember was one called Crypt Killer, and it wasn't very visually impressive. It was an on-rails shooter type game, but nonetheless it has solidified itself in my memory. It was just your typical battle loads of monsters, and then in the end you fight a boss, usually a Gorgon, or maybe Medusa herself. I can't actually remember. But all sorts of interesting monstrosities kind of popped up in that game. I think that's everything on the PlayStation 1 side of things gaming wise. I probably elaborated more than I should on those games just to keep this swift. But yeah, let me know if any PlayStation 1 titles really jump out at you, But I'm going to throw another console into the mix here, which I got a little afterwards, and I can't for the life of me remember how this console manifested in the house. But I do remember wanting it because I wanted to play Pokemon Stadium. I wanted to use that little gizmo on the joypad of the Nintendo 64 that you could pop your Pokemon Blue from the Game Boy Color in, and you could use your Pokemon, your 6 favorite Pokemon, in Pokemon Stadium. So I remember having some fun with that back in the day, and also a handful of wrestling games on the Nintendo 64. I want to say, I probably should have done a little bit of research, but WrestleMania 2000 or No Mercy or something like that. Don't quote me on that though. I remember the games didn't look amazing, but they played great, and the create a character customization was brilliant, and the story was brilliant, and just a lot of fun. There was something wrong with that Nintendo 64 in the sense of my one wouldn't even save certain things, but I didn't mind. I'd just go on and do it all again because it was so much fun. But I really only scratched the surface of the Nintendo 64. As I said, those 3 games are the only ones that spring to mind. Predominantly I was having fun on the PlayStation 1 back in that era, for sure. So I think that's it, guys. We'll talk about the PlayStation 1 and the Nintendo 64 in this video, history-wise. And I love yous and leave yous. Stay safe, look after yourselves and each other, and be kind to all kinds. Slán a bhaile, guys.